A very warm welcome to everyone here and a very warm welcome to Smriti Irani ji. Thank you very much for taking out the time, not just in Mumbai traffic, but flying all the way from Delhi to be here. And I know you have a packed schedule even after this. But I want to begin by sort of asking you about a question that I posed to other panelists earlier on. Being a woman and a powerful woman, but in the profession of politics, how tough has it been?
Firstly, politics is not a profession. Because if you talk about politics from a perspective of a vocation, then you would put a price on public service. The fact that you can serve a country of 1.4 billion people is in itself a privilege. So I do not look at it as a profession because I also think I belong to the media fraternity and I oscillated between media and politics. So I know the standards and the framework of what we call a profession. And I would rather that politics not be looked upon from a perspective of profit, from a perspective of competition amongst peers. I would rather that it be looked upon as a platform where multiple voices can converge for a greater good. That being said, when you call women powerful, how would you define power?
Okay, I'm going to relate an incident, and I know I'm interrupting you to define what Smriti Irani is all about. I was on the campaign trail when she was in Amethi in 2019, and a big wildfire broke out. Her cars were caught in it, so was our car, and a big ember came and fell on her right foot. You know what she did? She just took off that chappal. I had a bottle of Bisleri water in my hand. She poured it over her foot and kept walking on. Isn't that a powerful moment?
No, I think that's every woman. What is fascinating about Siddharth's description is that he had the water in his hand, but he did not deem it fit to douse the fire himself. Typical man. Doesn't know what to do when there is an emergency. It always rests upon the woman to give a solution with alacrity.
I know I set myself up for that, but I'm glad all of you are having a good laugh. But Smriti Irani, that constituency that you have fought in is not a normal constituency in my reckoning. I'm a business reporter, but I've also covered the political economy for 2 decades. And in 2014, when you went there, there was not one glass ceiling. I would say there were multiple ceilings that tried to work against you. In 2019, you broke those ceilings and you broke them very, very convincingly further. What was that make or break moment when you broke away from that old mold in a family borough?
I think that I was not sent to Amethi to contest that election because I was the female candidate. I was dispatched to Amethi because I was the best candidate to give that family a run for the money. And why I say this is because when there is a victory or a defeat, we suddenly start looking at the substance called gender. But we need to recognize today that gender is not the only qualifier for every woman who succeeds. Or for that matter, disqualification for every woman who doesn't succeed. And that is why I said, can you define power? Because our perspective towards power is so myopic that we look upon it from a perspective of position, from a perspective of bank balance, from a perspective of what assets we have. I think a woman is truly powerful when she knows her own aptitude, when she knows the realm in which she wants to leverage her capacities, and when she takes a decision for herself. That is power. Because many a times, women are burdened when they are in a position of decision making as to how that decision affects everybody else first before she thinks upon herself as a cause and effect situation. So for me, power is when you have the audacity to take a decision because that decision best suits you. without bothering about how you will be judged. And that is why I said, power, if this is how you define it, then every woman who's conscientious, every woman who's conscious of her own capacity, and every woman who knows that there is a cost to pay for being abrasive enough to be just herself, she is a powerful woman. The biggest, I think, disservice we do to women across all communities is when we define her power, again, from a perspective of a corporate position, a bank balance, or her status due to a relationship. The minute you say a woman who takes decisions for herself and is not apologetic about it, that woman for me is a powerful woman.
India is a society and an economy of many layers. How many women in India actually know about their true power?
I have done this before, and you have been a partner in crime in those conversations that we have had across the country, where we have had a conversation with women professionals, CEOs, CFOs, those who own businesses, and the question that I've asked them is, how many of you with great paychecks last balanced your own books? How many of you made your own decision to buy a house without consulting anybody else, or were dominant in that decision making within your family structure? How many of you take a decision to buy, let's say, a stock and do not have to ask somebody else, not in terms of permission, but even refer to somebody else, compared to the men in your family who would not bother and ask you which stock to invest in, which mutual fund is looking very, very enticing? How many of you are in that capacity? And I was a bit overwhelmed, where irrespective of how well such women were doing professionally, these were the decisions that they were not making, which means that there is a difference between creating wealth and controlling wealth.
There's also another question that you have asked audiences in the past, and I want you to ask that question once again. It is about wills. Could you please...
No, I think this is the BT audience. So here we have the wealth creators, the wealth controllers, and like Zia said in the last session, if you are not one of those who facilitate such creation within a corporate organization, the best is to ensure that there is a fiscal penalty for it.
But I will still get the audience to do a show of hands here. This is a question that Smriti Irani ji has asked of audiences in the past. How many of you, the ladies here, have actually gotten their husbands to write a will and have actually seen it in terms of what is going to happen? Actually, okay.
Not many. Let's be honest. Parsis are disqualified from this because they tend to get abrasive easily. But I think that the fact that there were very few hands which went up, this is a very difficult conversation for any woman to have in a family unit. The fact whether the male partner has made a will, how much is the insurance money, those are conversations if the women in the family start having. The first question that is societally posed is, "Arey, tum marne ka intezar kar rahe ho?" Not that you need to plan, because we have known of many women who have belonged to many and esteemed families, suddenly left adrift because this planning was not done for themselves and for the children that they are to look after, and even if they don't have children, to just look after their own business interests. So I think that these are the uncomfortable conversations that need to be had, because these are conversations that protect families, not only individuals. And till such time we do not make these conversations comfortable in our own family drawing rooms, I don't think we can speak about complete empowerment or emancipation. And I believe that it begins from the teenage life of a young girl. When you talk about financial literacy, and Arundhati ji is here somewhere in the room, when you talk about financial literacy, there was a time where financial literacy was knowing about what is the banking system. I think we've gone way beyond that. Now is the time not only to teach about mutual funds, not only to teach about the stock exchange, but also how many of us educate young girls to say that your first ambition should be to buy your own house. to create a capital asset by the time, let's say, you're 25. So if those aspects become a part of our financial literacy engagements, including make a will, including how do you approach the issue of insurance, which includes not only personal insurance, insurance for your family, insurance for your business. I think that those are the aspects that need greater reflection and conversation around.
India is the startup capital of the world, but my question is not a question for the boardroom audience. Are homemakers not powerful women?
They are, but I think that if you tell me that how I am as a homemaker needs to be quantified financially, that means you will tell me whether my love is good enough as a mother to tell me how many rupees should it be slotted under. So there is a different opinion I have on this particular issue. When we say let's quantify what is the contribution of a homemaker. Let's quantify how much monetary value can you attach to the love a wife has for a husband. Let's quantify how much money is good enough for you to be denoted as a good mother or a bad mother. So I think that those concepts which have been, let's say, discussed in Europe may not be concepts which are acceptable to women here. If I am admonishing my child, क्या आप वो पैसा भत्ता काट लोगे? No, those are the complications that you need to address. But when you look at the latent talent, you're talking about the startup ecosystem, you're talking about, let's say, unicorns. Those are very progressive economic initiatives. But let's look at the base of women that we have today and how are they economically franchised. You have over 400 million women today in our country who are in the age group of the workforce, out of which 300 million women are in the unorganized segment. But when we look at even the organized segment, and I was listening to the panel just before mine, what are the 2-3 challenges that we have? Apart from the fact that we are looking at boardrooms, one of the issues that we need to look at is what are the negotiating skills that we teach young women when they get into a corporate entity. Because that again becomes a qualification whether a woman will rise in the corporate ladder or not, and what is the substance to the woman who seeks to be at that negotiating table. How many women were at the threshold of promotion will sit and compete with a man but then quiver when she has to ask for more money and settles for less so that she gets to keep the job or she gets to get the promotion vis-a-vis a man that she's competing with. Those are issues also that need, I think, discussions in the corporate world, because we are told that the glass ceiling per se, as you call it, and that again is a marketing addict, will only be broken if we have more women in the boardrooms. The issue that also needs to be added to this substantially is how many women who are in middle management get equal pay, or somebody who's, for instance, I've been a professional in the media business. When I entered the media business, I used to get roughly $1,800 a day, as compared to the male actor who was in the project, who was getting $10,000. But by the time I finished my first year contract, I knew they could afford to let the guy go, but not me. So do you have the audacity to sit and negotiate and be tough as nail in your negotiation? Do we teach that to young girls? And not be cantankerous in your negotiation. Be very, very cognizant of what you bring to the table. And companies that value talent and competitive talent and talent which comes and saves on time in terms of your productivity, they would love to keep such an individual. The issue is how many companies help women recognize that capacity. How many of us end up doing the job for our male colleague and say, "Acha, theek hai, mujhe jana hai, tum kar do."
Right.
And how many of us become the good talent in a company because we've stayed beyond the working hours, because we've worked during holidays where our male counterparts will not work. So I think that that young girls, especially at the age of, let's say, 15, 16, 17, need to be taught that instead of finding a good boy, the first thing you need to do is find a good house and a bank loan that can service it. The second issue is The second issue is, when we look at the corporate structure, apart from looking at boardrooms, let's look at negotiating skills for women when they talk about contracts, when they talk about promotions. If we can assist women in that, I think we will do a great service to the female kind in businesses.
I want to steer the conversation away to more contemporary issues. Like you said,
This is contemporary.
Okay. I should have said more news related.
This is essential.
This is essential.
It may be boring for you, but this is genuinely needed.
Absolutely. This is the 20th edition of...
It may not be a headline grabber.
No. Okay. Yeah, you have me there. So let me come to the point straight away. You've broken the political glass ceiling many times over. Yet, please tell us, when the Congress attacks you, as has happened in the recent past, is it because of your political position?
This is a headline grabber and it's a very boring question. Yes.
Is it because you're a politician, or is it also because you are a successful woman?
It is because I'm not apologetic about the fact that for the first time in Indian democratic history, the sitting national president of the Congress party was defeated in his family borough. And every time that they make vile attacks at me, I do not wither away like a flaying flower. I don't care how many vile sexist attacks they mount, because they don't define me. I define me. I don't seek their validation or anybody else's validation for being who I am today. The only thing I seek is votes from my voter once every 5 years. And I do so not because I need the vote because I'm the female candidate, not because I need the vote because I've been once upon a time Tulsi. I get that vote, or I go to that vote on the basis of work that I have done in my constituency. For instance, my constituency for 40 years was promised a medical college. 40 years we had a family in power, that medical college never got made. I've been an MP only for 4 years. What did not happen in 40 years, I have got that medical college going now. There was a bypass which was promised 30 years ago, which did not get made. I got that bypass made in the past 3 years. I'm the first MP who has a house in my constituency. I'm the first MP who's gone to every Nyaya Panchayat. There are 2,000 villages. I have gone to every village in my constituency. I'm the first MP who got the Zilla Parishad elected for the BJP. I'm the first MP that made sure that we have a dialysis center in Amethi which did not exist. Amethi did not have a chief medical officer's office. I got that office made. Amethi did not have a district magistrate office done. I got that made. Amethi did not have a police line. I got that made. That is why I go to my voter.
और स्मृति जी, क्या यही कारण है कि लगातार कांग्रेस आप पे
Now
हमले
you're
करती
grabbing
है?
the headline for Aaj Tak. Yes. And Kali is smiling there because
क्योंकि आपने एक शब्द और इस्तेमाल किया और मुझे लगा आपने कहीं ना कहीं उसमें इशारा किया. आपने शब्द कहा
मैं कभी इशारा नहीं करती.
आपने डिस्क्वालिफाइड
बोलना
शब्द
होता है, मैं धड़ल्ले से बोलती हूँ. मुझे इशारा करने की जरूरत नहीं है.
तो जो डिस्क्वालिफाइड सांसद हैं और उनकी पार्टी है, एक्स सांसद ऑब्वियसली, लगातार आप पे हमले करते हैं. कहीं ना कहीं ये आपको पर्सनली चोट देता है क्या? ये
बिल्कुल नहीं. और मैं इसलिए कह रही हूँ क्योंकि देखिए, वो जिस धरा पर हैं, एक बहुत ही प्रतिष्ठित राजनीतिक खानदान से हैं. उस लेगेसी का अपना एक बर्डन होता है, एक एक्सपेक्टेशन होती है. मैं एक साधारण परिवार से हूँ. जब जन्मी तो मेरे माता पिता के पास 150 रुपए से ज्यादा पैसा नहीं था. मेरी पहली नौकरी जो थी 1998 में, जब मैं फेमिना मिस इंडिया की फाइनलिस्ट रही, तब यहाँ मुंबई में बांद्रा में मैकडॉनल्ड्स देश का पहला खुला था. वहां मैं पोछा मारती थी 1500 रुपए के लिए महीने में. To lose to such a woman, as they used to call me, a chit of a girl, that must really smart that gentleman. तो मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि जब एक महिला पर इस प्रकार का कटाक्ष किया जाता है या हमला किया जाता है, ये आप जितनी औरतें यहाँ बैठी हैं सब कहेंगी कि उनकी जिंदगी में कहीं ना कहीं ये सब हुआ है. Because that is done to deviate your attention. That is done to break your confidence. that is done to ensure that you are so flabbergasted you cannot punch back. The only difference is every time I'm hit, I make sure they lose another seat. So in 2019, there were sexist remarks, and those men who made sexist remarks were promoted. Then came the Vidhan Sabha in Amethi, and out of 5 Vidhan Sabha seats, Congress lost its security deposit in 4. Because everywhere the brother and sister went, I made sure that they lose the security deposit. Unfortunately, they didn't go to the 5th seat. Hoping they'll go there next.
Well, that's clearly a track.
It's not a surprise, then they don't like me.
Well, clearly, ladies and gentlemen, Smriti Irani, India's most powerful woman in politics, at least in my books, and I'm sure in all your books as well. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you.